In 2000, former Cuban Army officer Jose Vigo stormed the Bellagio casino in Las Vegas, threatening the cashier. Vigo stuffed a bag full of money and fled, but due to hotel cameras, he was quickly identified, arrested, and sentenced to life in prison. The stolen amount was $160,000. In 1992, a cashier at the Stardust Casino in Las Vegas, Bill Byrne, finished his shift. However, this time, he left work with the entire day's earnings. Half of it was in cash, the other in chips. The cashier was declared wanted, and 14 years later, the FBI closed the case, but the robber was never found. The stolen amount was $500,000. In 2007, a surveillance engineer at the Sobo Casino in Vegas, Rolando Ramos, started his shift. Instead of working with the cameras, he and several colleagues took money from the vault and left. After 48 hours, Ramos was arrested along with his accomplice. The stolen amount was $500,000. In 1993, Heather Tolchiv and her boyfriend Roberto Solis got jobs at the Circus Casino in Vegas, where their duty was to transport cash. During one of their shifts, the accomplices hijacked the money truck with several security guards inside. The robbers managed to escape, but 12 years later, Heather turned herself in to the authorities. Her accomplice is still at large. The stolen amount was $3 million. This impressive list includes some of the largest casino robberies in history. However, these cases pale in comparison to what a secret group of math students achieved. They made off with at least millions from gambling establishments, and according to some sources, tens of millions of dollars. What's more, no one from the group was ever imprisoned or even investigated. The reason is that they didn't rob casinos, they outsmarted them. The students used an inventive scheme based on mathematics and psychology, which allowed them to repeatedly beat the casinos. However, casino owners don't like losing money. The history of casinos is closely linked to the mafia, and such people are willing to do anything to protect their capital. This is the story of the Robin Hoods of the 20th century, outsiders who beat a powerful system using a powerful tool, the human brain. How did they do it, and why did the secret student organization cease to exist? Once, Newton formulated the law of universal gravitation, and 300 years later, another famous law emerged: the casino always wins. Compared to this principle, Newton's deeds seem like mere fantasy. The gambling establishment will always come out on top, no matter how lucky the players are. The thing is not that casinos cheat or break the law. This refers only to legal establishments, not underground operations or online casinos, but to the legally authorized gambling venues where anyone of legal age can try their luck. In such casinos, every detail, from the interior and service to the game rules, is designed so that you ultimately lose more than you win. The moment you step through the door, you're trapped. Almost every move you make will be controlled and influenced by the establishment. The casino interior is a maze. Crowds of visitors follow a carefully designed route between rows of slot machines, poker, blackjack, or roulette tables, with a new form of entertainment at every turn. Add to that relaxing music, a comfortable atmosphere, often free drinks, and plenty of other bonuses. Additionally, there are no clocks or windows in casinos, so you lose track of time, stay longer, and, as a result, spend more money. The principle of attention equals money was discovered by gambling establishments long before social media. At this point, many of you may think, well, I'm smarter than that. I won't fall for these cheap tricks. I can pop in briefly, place a bet at the roulette table, play a few rounds of blackjack, and who knows, maybe luck will be on my side instead of the casinos. Yes, this is possible, but the probability is low because in the end, luck always loses to mathematics, and casinos only rely on the latter. The odds in casinos are always in their favor. The odds in slot machines are more than 30%. In dice or blackjack, from 2 to 15%, depending on the player's experience. Of course, there were people who wanted to beat the system, using magnets, marked cards, hidden cameras, and other illegal tricks. However, such schemes are ineffective. Casinos always root out fraudsters with the help of security staff and the latest video surveillance systems. This once again confirms the main law. In the end, the casino will always win. Or will it? After all, if a gambling establishment uses mathematics to its advantage, why can't visitors do the same, especially if math is your way of communicating with the world? This is how the story of the secret group of students from MIT began. In 1994 in Boston, Jeff Ma, just over 20 years old, graduated from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, one of the most prestigious technical universities in the US and the world. Jeff rented an apartment with two other students, one of whom was Mike Aponte. By 1994, both of Jeff's roommates had already dropped out of school. Unlike Jeff, they didn't spend whole days in lectures and seminars. They only worked on weekends, and their mysterious activity allowed them to never worry about paying rent, living quite a carefree lifestyle. One day, Jeff asked his roommates what their secret was. They responded by suggesting a trip to Atlantic City, a city not widely known to everyone. Its fame has always been overshadowed by its counterpart, Las Vegas. Both cities are the largest gambling centers in the country, Las Vegas on the west coast, Atlantic City on the east. People visit these cities primarily to try their luck. Jeff and his two friends arrived in Atlantic City, and as they exited the airport, a limo and a concierge in a tuxedo awaited them, taking them to one of the city's main hotels, where they checked into a luxurious multi-room suite with a jacuzzi and a complimentary bottle of champagne. Everything was so stunning that Jeff, who constantly had money troubles, didn't pay much attention to the strange fact that the concierge kept calling his companions by completely different names than those he knew. One of his friends explained to Jeff how the bonus system worked in big casinos. If your bets at blackjack or craps are $20 chips, all you get is a smile from casino staff and maybe a small discount on the hotel room. But if your bets reach $100, you can expect a free room. Bet several $100s, and they'll add free food and drinks to your room. But if your bets exceed thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, you get the full package: limos, airport transfers, a suite with a jacuzzi, and champagne. What's the advantage for the casino, you ask? We return to the main rule: the higher the players bet, the more they will ultimately lose. This is why the casino encourages those who place big bets to do so regularly. Learning this, Jeff asked a logical question: where did his roommates get all that money after dropping out of school? The answer came later that evening in the casino. One of Jeff's friends took him into the gaming hall, and they walked past the slot machines, roulette, and poker tables until they reached one of the blackjack tables. Jeff witnessed his friend casually start the game with $100 bets and gradually increase them to $1,000. A couple of hours later, his friend stood up from the table, having won $6,000, almost the entire amount Jeff paid in rent for a year. At another table, Jeff saw his second roommate, Mike Aponte, who, after some time, also walked away with a large stack of chips. The source of income for Jeff's two roommates was now clear. Somehow, they had learned to cheat the casino. One of Jeff's friends objected, saying they didn't cheat the casino. They didn't break any rules. They just knew the system. They had learned a system based on math that allowed them to do the seemingly impossible: beat the casino. Jeff's roommates were far from the only ones who knew this system. They invited Jeff to join a large team of MIT students, people who had learned how to beat the casino using only their minds. Let's take a moment to play a game. On the surface, it has nothing to do with cards, but it explains the fundamental principle of the story. The game is inspired by an old American TV show where the host, Monty Hall, shows the contestant 3 doors. Behind 2 of them is a goat, and behind the third is a car. The contestant has to pick one of the doors. Once they choose, Monty Hall opens one of the remaining doors, revealing a goat. Now, the contestant has the chance to change their choice or stick with their initial pick. Most people stick with their choice, but some switch doors. Those who switch win the car more often than those who don't. But why? The key is in the probability. Initially, the chances of picking the car are 1 in 3. However, once Monty opens a door, the chances shift. If the contestant switches, they now have a 2 in 3 chance of winning. This is not about luck, it's mathematics. The same principle applies in blackjack, and this is how the MIT team consistently beat the casino. To count cards, you just need to add 1 when a low card, 6 or below, is dealt, and subtract 1 when a high card, 10 or above, is dealt. The higher the number in your head, the better the remaining cards are for you, and the higher your chances of winning. At first, this may seem simple, but casinos are not stupid. They knew about card counters from the 1960s and began looking for them more effectively. They hired security companies to monitor players and keep lists of suspects. These people were called dinosaurs. Bill Kaplan, the founder of the team, was one of these dinosaurs, and he was banned from many casinos. The team operated in groups of 5 to 7 players. They divided their roles into 3 categories: observer, gorilla, and big player. The observer would signal when the cards were in the player's favor, and the gorillas would then jump in and bet heavily. The big players would manage the game and make strategic bets. This system made it incredibly difficult for casinos to spot the card counters. Eventually, Jeff Ma and the MIT team faced increased pressure as their methods became known and their time in casinos grew shorter. By 1998, Jeff Ma had fully left the gambling business, focusing on his professional career, eventually becoming a top manager at Microsoft. Mike Aponte continued his blackjack career, but eventually became too well known to play in most casinos. Despite this, the MIT team's legendary success in beating casinos proved that mathematics could be a tool to outsmart the gambling system. While the casinos still win, this story remains a testament to the power of brains over the casino empire.